Hi there, my name is Brenda Titus and welcome to my video series, My Year of Recovery from Retinal Detachment. If you haven't seen my prior videos, please feel free to start there. This is the fourth video, which I'm calling the roller coaster of diagnosis, authorization, and surgery prep. Also, as a reminder, this is my personal experience, and I'm in no way trying to make any medical advice except for to speak to a doctor if you're experiencing a retinal detachment. So, in the last video, I mentioned that every patient is going to have very different circumstances, different, things that are going to lead up, and how the process goes, and even the outcome. And some of that in the early stages really has to do with how quickly you get treatment. Is it macular on versus macular off? The type of retinal detachment, also availability of specialists, special doctors who can do these kinds of procedures, and also availability of insurance or financial resources. So, an additional part is that actually a retinal detachment is something that is considered a medical issue, a medical intervention, as opposed to something that would be on your vision insurance. So, just helpful things to keep in mind. So, and I also wanted to mention some things about insurance because some of the roller coaster was about getting all of those authorizations and approvals in order. So as I mentioned in my last video, I went to the emergency room for evaluation on a Tuesday night. And I went home with the understanding that I needed to have surgery as soon as possible and that it was really going to be necessary to prevent permanent vision loss. So my surgery was 8 days later. Now, what I do want you to know is that the week was very much a roller coaster. There were lots of ups and downs, which I'm going to share. But it is true that even though it was 8 days later, I do have vision. Actually, I believe that at this point, after a year, having gone through a full year of recovery with that eye, as well as some of the aftercare procedures necessary, I do believe that I have full range of motion or range of vision in my left eye. Now, I'm still have a couple of weeks before I go to the doctor and get evaluated for glasses because I have a very, very different prescription now, but I do believe that I will be able to have full capacity very soon with that eye. So let's see. So the day after the emergency room, I was on high alert. I knew that I was going to have to wait for an approval and a referral to a retinal specialist. So at some point during the morning, being, like I said, on high alert, waiting, we learned the location of the doctor and we learned the general time in his schedule that he could see us that day. So we passed the time, did what we could to keep ourselves occupied and waiting on the authorization for us to even consult with this doctor. It did have to be a referral from my medical practice and then the insurance approving as well that I could see him. So we literally sat in the parking lot of his office on phone calls from, his office to my medical group, going back and forth. And finally, the approval, the authorization did come through. So I was able to meet with him, and he, of course, confirmed what they had said at the emergency room. He called it a macular off retinal detachment. And the macula has to do with fine-tuning the center vision. So, and there is some information in the video description about different types of retinal detachments as well. So he did, of course, confirm that I would need surgery as soon as possible. However, he also said that he only does surgery once a month. And so he said that I would actually need to meet with a different retinal specialist before moving forward. So, fine. So one thing he did confirm is that the surgery would be called a vitrectomy, and he did make it very clear that this was a serious procedure. And he also said there's very important aftercare instructions I would need to be very diligent about following for the best outcome. And he also said that the recovery would take several weeks before I would be able to return to my regular daily activities, including going back to work. So I understood it was going to be very serious. And as we were driving away, my husband was driving, and I started looking up vitrectomy and what that meant so that I could start preparing myself. And I will give you a little preview. The big thing that I learned is something called face down recovery. And face down recovery might be what it sounds like. You are laying face down and or sitting with your head down as much as possible for the first week after the surgery. I actually will be sharing more in a separate video about face down recovery, face down recovery. And I do have some resources, some things that helped me through that process. So let's see, we finished with that doctor, and we got an appointment for the next morning, which would now be Thursday, to see the person who would ultimately be my retinal surgeon. So on Thursday, we did go to meet with the retinal surgeon. I was able to see the images, so I actually have a pretty good understanding of what a retinal detachment looks like. I also have a reasonable understanding of what a intact retina looks like. And so I'm going to actually share those pictures in the comment section after I post this video. They are kind of just interesting to look at, and so I wanted to share them so you kind of have some ideas about what that might look like. So let's see. He also confirmed that we'd need surgery, and he was going to start the referral process, start the insurance authorization and all of that. And let's see. Now, at some point it did come out, with this doctor, I said, I've learned about this surgery and it's terrifying. I mean, I never wanted even regular laser surgery. I never even wanted contacts. I don't want anything. I don't like things touching my eyes and poking at me, and just going to be honest about that. Now, it was also true, especially since I had already had a pretty dramatic emotional response to feeling trapped and in emotional distress at the emergency room. I was very concerned about feeling that way during a surgery. And I had already kind of read that some eye surgeries, they do while you are awake. And honestly, I wanted nothing to do with any of that. I'm just going to be honest. Now, he actually had decided that he was going to do a procedure called a scleral buckle, which is a more advanced and additional element involved in the vitrectomy. It was going to require more intensive surgery, more intensive recovery, but he felt that it would be actually a more secure kind of option for me. And it would mean that I would be under general anesthesia. And I said, okay, if that's what you actually recommend for my condition, then that's what we will do. And so that is what we did. So as we left his office, we had all kinds of instructions, things that I needed to do to prepare and to make arrangements. And the next thing that I would need to do is to schedule my pre-surgery appointment. So for those who don't know, especially apparently maybe once you turn 50, or some such age, but I think it's 50. They do require you to go to your doctor and get cleared to ensure that you are healthy enough for a surgery. And I only say that because I had a surgery right before I was 50 and I didn't have to do these things. So there you go. So I had to do a chest x-ray, a general update on my health, do the blood pressure, have a blood test, all of those things. So this did become, though, another part of the frustrating part of the roller coaster, because my general practitioner would not schedule the appointment for pre-surgery authorization until they had a request from my surgeon's office. And so there was just kind of this little roundabout opportunity between, desperately requesting that that the surgeon's office move as swiftly as possible to send in the request so that I could get the appointment. And then, of course, everybody following through with the insurance authorizations and all of those things. And all I could do was wait, which, is kind of hard. Here I'm being told needs to be done as soon as possible, but there's nothing I can do. I need to rely on other people to move swiftly to make this happen. And the truth is also that I was not sure about driving at that point to get even to the doctor's appointment. And so I was going to be needing transportation to be able to do that as well. So a lot of scheduling and those things on the roller coaster. Well, as it turned out, the next morning on Friday, I sent my husband back to work, and that's when they said, okay, the doctor can see you this afternoon. So I did end up driving myself that day to my doctor's appointment. I drove very carefully and very safely, and I definitely learned a lot about being very careful driving during this last year, but I was able to do that. So by the end of Friday, I had done everything on my side to prepare and to, move everything forward. And Friday night, all I could do was wait. I had to wait through the weekend and not really knowing, okay, we have to wait for the blood test to come back. We have to wait for this doctor to make the approval. And there was kind of a deadline. They needed to get the information to the surgery center by a certain time to get even in for the following week for surgery at all. It was a lot, and like I said, all I could do at that point was wait. So during that weekend, we just waited, and as much as there was kind of a lot of that uncertainty, it was literally out of my hands. And so I did learn a lot of patience during that weekend to just wait. So on Monday afternoon, we got the call that the insurance had been approved, the referrals were in order, and they had a time slot available for me with the surgeon and the surgery center for Wednesday at the end of the day. So after a week, almost a week of that up and down and uncertainty, not knowing when it was going to be, I finally at least had a date for the surgery. So that was a really good thing. So the truth is I spent the rest of Monday and most of Tuesday doing a lot of preparation. I did preparation for my recovery space, for the face down recovery. I had to really think about how long I should take off of work before seeing clients again. So once I made that decision, I actually then did all my rescheduling, messages to my clients, a lot of back and forth with them to get that all squared away. And quite frankly, because I am self-employed, I also needed to really sit down and make sure that my hypnosis practice, all the communication was set up to just be on autopilot, to be, I'm out of the office, I'm dealing with an emergency. On my voicemail, it kind of said, I'll get back to you in a couple of weeks, and the same on my email. And that was, it was very tiring. It was a lot of work. But finally, the time happened that I could say I've done everything that I could do to be ready for surgery and to be ready to have the surgery and to recover. And so I will kind of finish the story for now at that point. And I do appreciate you watching my videos and listening and letting me share. But obviously, of course, I'm really hoping that you're learning something through this journey as well. And I know today was just kind of some ups and downs, more about my particular experience. And I will be putting some additional information in the comments, and then there is also really helpful information in the video description. So information about what is a retinal detachment, what are the the signs and the symptoms, why do these things happen, which we don't, in my situation, we don't know. So, there's that. So you can go ahead and take a look about that. And in my next video, I believe I will be talking about FaceTime recovery. And I will actually be giving a lot of tips and tools. So it's not just going to be a horror story about how hard it is. It actually, in the grand scheme of things, was probably not so terrible, but I could see where I was nicely prepared. I really did some research, and so I will be sharing some of that with you so that if you ever have to go through that, you will have some information to be able to support you with that. And so with that, I'm going to finish up for today. I wish you a wonderful day, and I will be back in touch another time. Have a great day.